Episode 36.
This is definitely episode 39.5.
Yeah.
A. It's like the Open from a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they had A and B parts, and technically there were 6 workouts, but they classified them as 5 because you did them in 5 weeks. 6, yeah. Everybody got mad because the scoring changed a little bit because they weren't counted as one workout, they were counted as 2.
What's your favorite open workout you ever done?
Man, honestly, the first official open that I ever did, I did some open workouts from 2012, but the first open that I did in its entirety was 2013, and I think my favorite open workout ever is 13.1. So it kind of just had 2 movements in it that have a tendency to be 2 of my stronger movements. So
What was the workout?
it was an ascending snatch ladder with burpees in between. So what about you? Favorite open workout ever?
Oh, no, I haven't done one I liked.
What? Okay, all right. What open workout do you think you gave your best performance in ever?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And worst performance in ever?
The worst one was the first one I ever did where I couldn't even do 30 double unders.
I remember that. That workout was 10 minutes long.
It's a 10-minute AMRAP that started with 30 double unders and 10 power snatches.
Yep.
And the furthest I got was 29 double unders.
Chris was not getting any bro reps in that.
If I could just get to the bar.
Thanks, Brooks.
Yeah.
No bro
That was
reps given
Brooks.
to Chris. So he couldn't even get to the bar to finish the first round.
Oh man, that was good times. Trying to think if there's one that I was like, oh man, I actually did pretty good on that, especially compared to like those around me. But I don't think that I have one. I don't think I've ever done an open workout and been like, dang.
You've done some open workouts where your ability to perform a high skilled movement towards the end of the workout.
Usually, yeah, usually it's something like
I've
that.
always been impressed with you on that. So my high skill movements go south under fatigue, and you have a tendency to pull it together and get whatever high skill movement you need to knock out done. So,
Yeah, I can't think of one where I was like completely shocked with how I did.
do you think that the open gives an accurate display of fitness level and it gives you an accurate portrayal of where you need to point your goals to?
I think the answer is yes if you want to be good at CrossFit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's an endurance sport first.
Yeah.
Like you can be strong all you want, but if you don't have the endurance to push through and have a good level, you have to be, I would say, to do well in the open, you have to be enduring first, because you got to make sure you'll be able to go at a pace that is worth being at. And 2, you have to have gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, be able to lift a heavy barbell. Because odds are you're only going to run into 1, maybe 2 workouts where you get stopped by a barbell.
Yeah.
Whereas you could run into all 5 workouts where you get stopped by a lack of endurance or lack of gymnastics.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last time we saw a quote-unquote max effort lift was 2 or 3 years ago. The past 2 years, it's been if you wanted a heavy barbell, you had to get there.
Right, you had to get there.
And a lot of folks that we knew that had the capacity, myself included, that had the capacity to do the heavy barbell, couldn't get to the heavy barbell.
Right.
So it's definitely the endurance-based aspect of it you better have in line.
Yeah.
So, how impressed were you? Speaking of open workouts, and gonna jump topics real quick. How impressed were you with Adam Klink Klink. Is that the right way to pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Klink.
Yeah, Klink. His 500-pound squat, sub 5-minute mile, and 50 pull-ups all in the same day. 50 unbroken pull-ups all in the same
I think the most impressive part is that he weighs 216 pounds.
Yeah. He's
Running
a big
sub
athlete.
5-minute mile at 216 pounds is a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
That might be the most impressive part.
Well,
in all honesty.
And on top of that, and you kind of saw the internet warriors going back and forth about this, but he ran his mile before he squatted.
Yeah.
Which is pretty daggone impressive too. They still had the leg drive to do the squats after he ran that mile, or to do the squat after he ran that mile. And the reason I connected that to the Open was he came in 142nd in the world in the Open this past year.
Right.
So,
well, that's the other thing too. Like, there are other people out in the world who can do that. Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But those other people probably dedicate 100% of their training to it.
To that, yes.
Whereas he was just a CrossFitter who was in the last 6 months or something.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm gonna put a little more focus into this.
Well, and he probably, I don't want to say saw the writing on the wall, but with everybody, just like a lot of other CrossFit athletes, with everything going on, you maybe redirected his goals a little bit for this training season in order to make that happen, because that's an impressive feat. Like, I don't care who you are, that's extremely impressive to be able to squat 500 pounds, run a sub 5-minute mile, and do 50 unbroken pull-ups all within a 24-hour time period. So.
Yeah, that's quite impressive. Yeah, probably the most, I think, in order, the run, then the squat, and then the pull-ups were impressive. I mean, 50 chest to bars, as for anyone, unbroken is pretty impressive.
Absolutely it is. So if you go back and watch his video, if you watch the video that he posted on YouTube, you can watch his mile in the entirety. You can watch his workup to the 500-pound squat. You can watch his 50 pull-ups. And if you look at his 50 pull-ups, it's like he just comes off the bar 50, walks away. It's not like it crushed him or anything.
Yeah.
It looked like he could stay on the bar for it.
Not like he barely made it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had somebody that you wanted that their goals were completely CrossFit related and wanted to get better at the Open, what would your recommendation be to them?
Identify your biggest limiters. So is it muscular endurance? Do you get fatigued when you do specific movements, but you're okay when you do other movements? Are you someone who can run 3 miles fine, but when you do WODs, you get blown up? Then it's probably more muscular endurance. Or do you just need straight breathing endurance, where you need to probably do more workouts that not just going out on a run or a rowing, but maybe you're doing mixed modal where you have to pace it like a 3-mile run, where you're doing rowing and thrusters, but you're doing it at a pace you would run 2 or 3 miles at. So is that your problem? If you want to do it RX, can you do the typical RX weights you see from baseline? Can you do a 95-pound thruster as a guy? Can you do, I think actually the most common snatch weight you see is 115.
Yeah.
From what just thinking off the top of my head, I think that's the most common power snatch weight. You'll see it go heavier, but can you do that for reps? Can you do clean and jerks at 135? Probably should be able to power clean close to 185. I think 185 is pretty common for power cleans. But really, it's the gymnastics you need to develop. And really, you need to develop time under tension in shapes before you do a lot of dynamic work.
Yeah.
The fastest path to getting better at gymnastics is holding shapes and building isometric strength.
Say that one more time, just so everyone hears it.
Building static positions and holding isometric patterns to build strength.
Because that's the hardest sell to people a lot of times. Is just be able to hold this position and work 3 sets of 10 seconds at it, 3 sets of 20 seconds, accumulate a minute in a position. So
before you try and walk on your hands all the time.
Yep.
Can you hold a wall-facing handstand hold with 1 foot off the wall for a minute?
Yeah.
Do you know how to get out of a handstand?
Yep.
Like, that was the thing that like plagued me for a while. It's like I'm just now learning how to get out of a handstand correctly. So you build confidence if you are handstand walking. You're like, okay, when I come down, I know how I'm gonna come down.
And I think with gymnastics, and we've got several good examples in our gym of you see folks who are really good at gymnastics, and you have a tendency to find out they have a gymnastics background. They did gymnastics at some point in their life. Well, I can think of 3 examples in our gym at that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we'll hear members, they're so good at gymnastics, and you may not realize that at a very early age, they were building the foundational movements that you're going to need to build now in order to get better at gymnastics. Right. So,
well, yeah, and it's all people are like, well, okay, so take a handstand push-up for instance. You're like, I need to do handstand push-ups 3 times a week or something. And that's probably not the case. What would be better is if you had one day where you practice handstand push-ups, a second day where you did some strength with bars or kettlebells or dumbbells overhead, and then a third day that was just dedicated to holding the various positions that go with handstands. Same thing with pull-ups.
I was about to say, and you're a great example of that, not to cut you off, but Chris's arms are forever long. I think he's touching the sky sitting in the chair right now, but he's somebody who came in and has really had to work really hard to build vertical pressing power. So
and it'll come and go, and I know when it comes and goes if I don't work on it. So like I hit 18 or 19 kipping handstand push-ups the week before we had our competition in a row. So 18 or 19, which is huge for me. For some people, some people they're like, oh, I can do 50 or 60. Never been my case.
Yeah.
When I started CrossFit, like even a kipping handstand, I wasn't even strong enough to propel enough force for a kipping handstand push-up. Prior to that, in the last 3 or 4 months, I'd probably done handstand push-ups 4 or 5 times. So it wasn't like I was like, okay, I'm going to get better at kipping handstand push-ups by doing kipping handstand push-ups. Some days for the kip, I would just practice eccentrically lowering down and practice on getting my knees to a proper position and then coming off the wall. Like I wouldn't even do the press part. And then I would do pressing with the barbell, working at various rep ranges. So like some days it was lighter and more endurance. Some days it was heavier and more strength. A couple of strict handstand push-up days. A lot of it was just positions. In my warm-up, I would kick up on the wall, and part of my warm-up was just to hold a 20 or 30-second handstand hold. Carries overhead, carries at my side. I mean, everything that goes to the shoulder joint has to be strong.
Yeah.
And you gotta be able to carry it. You gotta be able to hold your weight. So just holding. So you're building everything that goes into the handstand. Don't get so caught up in you have to do that. I think so many people get caught up in I have to get better at this one movement. So
by doing this one movement.
Yeah. So. Or they get too stuck on its technique, which we were talking about the other day. A lot of it can be technique, but if you're not strong enough to emphasize that technique, it was an interesting thing. I was watching a weightlifting channel. It was Zach Tellender, and he was talking about like the foreign lifters who used a lot of drugs. And he was like, look at this guy, how he lifts when he was on all these drugs. He hit like a 240 kilo clean jerk, which is like over 500 pounds. And then 3 years later, he's off drugs. He can only do 190, which is still a lot of weight. Still well into 400 pounds, but his technique looks totally different. And he's like, what people don't understand is certain techniques take strength to be able to do.
Yeah.
So when you're like, you have a super ridiculously strong back, you can get into more advantageous positions.
Yeah.
The same thing like with gymnastics.
Yeah. Well, that's, you teach, when you're teaching Olympic weightlifting, we'll keep it on the barbell for just a second. Yeah. But if you take what you feel like your 90% or your 1RM, and you can't go from the top and get into position 2 and hold it.
Yeah.
you're going to have a hard time hitting that weight
Right,
because you're going to have
consistently,
you're going to have to get into position 2 with that weight in order to get a clean lift on.
Yeah.
And it like you brought up a great point just then. Consistently, you could have a
Everybody has a
chance,
good day,
where you hit it 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
But if you want to be able to have the confidence, if you're getting ready to walk into a competition, whether it be a weightlifting or a CrossFit competition, if you want to be able to walk out there and be able to open with that weight, be able to open with your 90%, your positions better be consistent. So, but.
And I used to just try and maybe apply it to CrossFit, but I would apply this to anyone who does any strength training because you have so many variables in your life that can affect things on a daily basis. Don't get so caught up on the maximum weight you can lift. Get caught up on the minimum weight you can hit on a daily basis.
That's great advice.
Like, even weightlifters do it, and weightlifters literally run, like we talked to Deb a couple weeks ago, like a month ago now.
Yeah.
And she even talked about it. She was like, yeah, I have certain weights that I know even if I'm feeling sluggish that day, I know I can hit. Yeah. Right? And that's really the idea you need to have because, one, you don't know how your daily life's going to be affected. Maybe you have to go a week without excellent sleep or something like that, and training's not going to go as well. You haven't eaten well. Now let's get into the gym. CrossFit by its nature, we don't program random, but the workouts are in a sense random, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're piecing different things together that are going to affect people differently. I can tell you how kettlebell swings, biking, and running is going to affect me the next day, but it might affect someone else totally different. It might be their weakness, and it's going to take a lot more out of them. So, and if the next day we come in and we snatch heavy, and they're like, "Man, I'm feeling sluggish today," well, that's a great time to know, okay, what's the weight I know I can always hit? And start using that number more often than you're using your true max, because your true max might have just been a day where you were on.
Might have been a great day.
Yeah.
So. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that advice. So.
Like, and you can know that for every movement to a certain degree. And I mean, you can know that for pull-ups. Like, man, I'm always good for 5 pull-ups in a row. Or I'm always good for 10 toes bar in a row. Or I'm always good for a 205 snatch. I'm always good for a 255 clean and jerk, even on my worst day.
Yeah.
That way you know your range in which to back it off.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then you can come back the next time and hit. And if you consistently feel yourself feeling like crap with a movement, then you know, okay, maybe it's the stuff around it.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So.
But it's a hard mindset to have, right?
It is.
You get so caught up. I know I see people get frustrated if they see, like, Monday, for instance, it was deadlift to a 3-rep max. Mm-hmm. But I went into the classes telling people, like, hey, you might not hit your 3-rep max. We want a 3-rep max for today. Mm-hmm. This might not be your all-time 3-rep max. That's not.
And it's fine if it's not. Yeah. I think one of the things that you hate to see as a coach, and sometimes you can talk to people until you're blue in the face, for lack of a better term, but what you hate to see as a coach is somebody come in and they're not having a great day. Maybe they did have that long weekend. They come in and try to hit that 3-rep max, and they're just bound and determined they're going to pull that last 3-rep max, and them exerting so much effort to pull that last 3-rep max takes such a negative toll on their body that it takes away from them the rest of the week. Yeah. And you see that. I mean, we see that as coaches. Yeah. So.
Very true. Well, that was pretty good.
It was.
Yeah. We went off the cuff. We didn't have
We didn't have any idea what we were going to talk about. So.
That worked out.
Lucky we have people intelligent like Chris in here. So.
Well, yeah, this ice machine, it's probably doing a lot more brain work than I am right now.
Probably so. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Anything else you want to add, Aaron?
No, man. It's mid-July. So.
Mid-July.
Mid-July. It's been hot outside this week. Hydrate.
Yeah. What if we just did like an extra 8 minutes where we just stared at the camera.
And said, yeah, every
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
But slowly stop smiling. Yeah. And we're out. Shout out to the Body Shop.
The Body Shop.
We're in their office.
Stacy's torture chamber.
I say there. It's really just her office.
Yes, it is. We love Stacy.
Shout out to Stacy.